And we're going live.
Video.
Hey, so we are live with Mr. Joe Flowers of Bushcraft Global. Okay, if you don't already know who Joe is a man of many hats. He owns and started a company where he brings people down to South America on knife and machete-based survival adventures and indigenous tribesmen called Bushcraft Global. Joe writes for a myriad of magazines and publications and contributes regularly to the outdoor community, concentrating in woodcraft and primitive living, works with Tops Knives and other companies. Oh, sorry, let me skip back. His knowledge of outdoor gear led to consulting on equipment design and function for many companies, including Condor, where he has designed over 100 knives, and also consults and works with Tops Knives and other companies. Joe holds a degree in zoology with a minor in entomology and researches heavily into all things outdoors. Joe is an avid naturalist, hunter, fisherman, herpetologist, videographer, beekeeper, knife thrower, guide, and regularly travels international in search of knife knowledge and unique critters. All right, so I'm about to turn it over to
How'd
Joe.
you remember all that?
Yeah, it's all in here.
I sent him an email.
Yeah, he sent me the email, so that's the official one. Now, if you don't know, the name of this one is called Machete Mayhem. In reality, this is kind of a Machete 101 class. And obviously, if I don't know if you can see Joe's video yet, but he has just got a plethora of machetes. And so it's his, what's that?
I said they keep going too.
They keep going.
Good
So
grief.
we're calling this Machete Mayhem versus Machete 101 because Joe is notoriously a mayhem master. He always brings the fun and brings a ton of machetes along with him a lot of times. So I don't think there's anything more to say. If I miss anything, Joe, you can chime in with more of your bio or background, but otherwise I'll just turn it over to you.
How do I sound, by the way? Is the connection good?
Yeah, it's a little quiet, but yeah, as long as you speak up outdoors, it should be good to go.
Okay, I'm gonna have my sister-in-law Amanda here be the filmmaker to follow me around, so you guys can send her tips afterwards for having to try and follow like a lunatic around with machetes. So I'm gonna flip this around and we're gonna start. There we go. Whoop. There we go. All right. So Amanda, if you would hold that, we're gonna start over here at the table. And you can just walk around there. Flip-flops were the best shoes to ever wear with machete. So I work for Condor Tool and Knife. That is the second biggest machete manufacturer in the world. It's something like 40,000 a week or a month. They make machetes, and arguably the machete. What'd she say? What did he say?
I couldn't hear that.
Repeat that.
It wasn't anything. I think it was just an audio reverb.
Yep.
Actually, can I take this moment, Joe, for 1 second? Let me actually say a thing to everybody. So if you're on here live with us, you can either be live on Facebook or YouTube right now. Either one, you can actually comment on both the YouTube chat, which you'll find usually on the right-hand corner, or on Facebook just as a normal comment. So if you have any questions for Joe, you're welcome to put those in there. We're all monitoring the questions right now. So when the time is applicable, we'll be asking Joe your questions. And so that's what makes us really good and engaging and participatory, is being able to do this live with Joe. So if you got any questions, definitely ask him.
So the machete, Dustin, is arguably the most used edge tool in the world right now with your hand. Arguably, by the way, but there are more people in South America, Central America, the Philippines, the Indo-Pacific, that are actually picking up a blade first thing in the morning, not going on Instagram and checking their phone, and actually fixing their house, fishing, hunting, working, building, doing agriculture, even fighting. You know, the machete is still probably the only type of blade fighting that regularly happens, more or less, still nowadays. And oh man, this is one thing where you have to fight, where you have to follow me around. Machete fighting, I'm not going to get into that, as I am a martial artist, but I've never fought people with the machete. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, audio is good.
Good. So when they're
Good to
getting in a
go.
machete fight, which still happens to this day in tons of different countries, they smack the machete around on the ground and make sparks, and they sit there and they posture up. Then they grab a jacket or something and wrap it on their other hand and use it like a shield to go after each other. And so that type of fighting still happens today. And then sometimes they pimp slap each other with the machetes. That's not a technical term. The technical term is called a planazo. They're like drunk and stuff and they fight. And when they feel like they're really threatened, they take the machete and they turn it around and then cut. Planazo is like an old school term, like whippersnapper or something. They don't use it much anymore, but that means hitting somebody with the side of a machete. Where does that have context with you guys? I like animals. You guys like animals? Yes?
Yeah.
All right. If I was hanging out in the woods and all of a sudden the angry dog came up to me, I don't want to hack it to death. That'd give me nightmares or post-traumatic machete syndrome or something. So you can slap animals out of the way. You can slap things out of the way without actually hurting an animal. You can use machetes on the side to pound stuff. It's not necessarily for just cutting. But most of the machete fights stop when people get appendages cut off and things along that line. So anyway, where did the machete come from? Where do you guys think it came from?
Jungle.
The jungle. No, it actually came and
Asia.
watch the poor camera woman decided to wear her rainbow sandals out here. The sea of tetanus.
Hey, camera woman, can we go landscape mode? Turn the phone sideways, maybe.
Yeah, like this.
Get us yeah. Now we see more machetes. Woo!
There we go. All right, yeah, just tell us to keep it that way, and that's good to go. So the machete. Now, where did I put that one? Oh, there it is. The machete has its history in the naval cutlass. And what happens is before that time, people would go around the woods and they'd move around all the different types of foliage, or they'd use a stick to move it out of the way. We'll get back to that when we walk in the woods here. And they would not really take advantage of all of the woods around them. So the different navies came by. This is like more or less South America and all that. The colonials, everybody came by with these cutlasses on them. And they saw those. And you're like, dude, want that? So they wanted to steal them. They would trade for them. And then you started getting these machete sword hybrids where they were just useful, not just for stabbing somebody, but also working out in the bush. And you see that in a bunch of different areas. Besides South America, where do you think you guys would see that? Any guesses?
Grasslands. I don't know where.
Do you say grasslands? Well, yeah, definitely grasses. We'll get to that in a minute. But Thailand and in that area, Muay Thai, sitting there with their hands up and throwing all these round kicks and stuff. Well, the traditional versions in that area, traditional martial arts in that area, had hybrids of swords and machetes called das. This one's from, I believe, Case Hanway. It was called the Banshee. And this is really cool because it was used for Muay Thai fighting, or not really Muay Thai fighting, but the traditional versions. I can't remember which martial art that was that predates that. But it also has use for out in the bush and in the jungle. So the cool part about a machete is you can still use it for self-defense if you had to. But there's a lot of different variations. I've got a really cool classic version of a DA here. That's DHA. And this one's pretty neat. So this is a hybrid between a machete and a sword, and you'll see that a lot. What makes it a machete? What makes it a sword? More or less the thickness. You want a thinner machete. A lot of North Americans like big, thick machetes, but the thinner it is, the quicker it moves, and that's the big deal with machetes. They're not really used to make a log cabin, but you can do almost everything else in bushcraft. Feel free to interrupt if we have any questions, by the way.
Melissa Thomas says, "Hey, kiddo."
Pardon?
Melissa Thomas says, "Hey, kiddo."
Hey, kiddo. Hi, kids.
I don't know who that is, Melissa Thomas.
Never getting a fun machete fight like with sticks, even with like a 5-year-old down in El Salvador. They're better than me. Even the 5-year-olds with machete. Crazy. It's the first thing they pick up, and they do all these really what seems to us as unsafe uses, but there are some ways with that. Okay, so can you pan up or like hold it up like at an angle to see. We have a bunch of different machete designs. We got machete designs from the Indo-Pacific. We got them from Latin America. We have them all the way to kukri machete hybrids. So what makes a machete, and what's the difference between that and a golok and a parang or a latok or whatever they call some of these different designs out there? It's more or less the region where it comes from. So some regions have machetes that are all Latino style, like the Essie machete, which has this very, very normal tip, kind of like an Ontario machete. That's probably the most common machete from South America to North America, is this Latin style. But you go to some of these other places, and you'll see some of these more go-lucky designs. Don't worry about that. Come on over here. Yes. All these beautiful wares. So these are from the Indo-Pacific. These are made out of spring steel, 5160. Normally, you want them made out of carbon steel, but these are some of my babies. Some of them, a lot of the old Collins manufacturers, these guys have a big knife and a small knife from the Indonesia. These were pretty interesting to get. I actually got them through the guy who owns myparang.com. So some are better for chopping, some are better for light work. What do you think the most used machete in the U.S. is right now?
The most used?
Yep. As far as let's put it this way, as far as agriculture goes.
I might have a guess, but I may have heard this before.
If you've heard it before, don't say it. It's this one.
Anybody in the comments section of either YouTube or Facebook got a guess for that?
What is this? It ain't for bread, yo.
Mac 170, picked up a Mac 170. Always wondered what your machete collection looked like. I don't know. That was it. Maybe it's not
all of it. I ran out of time to bring it all out.
I think we've only ever seen the traveling show, Dustin. This is pretty unbelievable how many he has just in addition to the traveling show.
I didn't get a chance to get all the stuff off the wall. But with all this comes forward. But real quick, what do you guys think this is used for?
It's a bread knife.
Nope.
You need a guess?
Butter knife.
Feliz Navidad.
It's Christmas trees.
It's for Christmas trees. It's a Christmas tree shearing knife. And they'll use these things two-handed in the U.S. and trim a Christmas tree in that conical sense. So the Christmas tree knife, I came up here to Allegheny County. I'm in North Carolina, by the way. We don't have too many neighbors around us, but the ones that come by are definitely staring. And they are very, very common around here. So I'm working on that. So with that being said, how many viewers do we have right now?
This is the first time on this platform that we're using. It says 31, but I don't know if that's only pulling from one location or if that's pulling from both.
Okay. What time is it? I have an idea, by the way.
Okay.
It's 2:14.
2:14. Okay. When we're getting close to the end of the camera girl being here, we're going to demonstrate how to champagne stuff.
Nice.
Champagne with a machete. So anyway, we're starting out here and we're talking about where these machetes are coming from. You'll see differences in machetes. Some of these are thick as snot, and I don't know how thick snot is, but these are thick, but they have a distal taper. That means they're thick here and they get thin there. That's really important. And for some reason, a lot of the, and I'm not talking crap because I have like 20 of them, but the Ontario machetes made here in America are not distally tapered, and that's between that and some Tramontinas that I've seen. That's the only machetes that I've seen that don't have that distal taper. It helps with the balance. It helps with the speed that you can use a machete. It helps with a lot of different things. Now, this interesting guy right here has a chisel grind on one side and is thin and conical on the other. And that's for right-handed Malaysian machete masters. So when you're cutting into something, it doesn't chunk out and fall out on the left side. You're able to get it in a little bit deeper. But you won't see that in my designs because we have to make sure it's when people see that it's kind of hard. About the only person who's ever pulled that off in a knife is Emerson, and they still get stuff about their chisel grinds. But these are really cool. You can can you see focus up on there, the glue on there?
Yeah.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
That's a type of rattan, and then this is probably just burnt plastic from an old like 50-gallon barrel, and that's what they'll use to hold these in, and they work really, really well.
What are they chopping with those?
Believe it or not, probably a lot of this same flora as in North America. So woody, dense, hard trees. Everybody says, well, yeah, you can use a thin machete, but only in the jungle. No, there is hard stuff there. There's stuff that has taken chunks out of my 1/4 of an inch steel machetes and stuff. So, but you know, the Malaysian guys, they kind of have it right because they kind of have it the best of both worlds. They've got woody stuff and they've got, you know, green stuff too.
Well, and so that seems like a decent follow-up here. Jim Hill was asking, most of machetes appear to be designed for softwood. What would you recommend for the hardwood and bamboo?
Well, you can use a machete for hardwood and bamboo, even if it's thin. Back in the day, and you can kind of glance while I'm talking about this, back in the day, and still nowadays, especially if we walk around here and over to this side, if you walk around here and see some of these more traditional machetes, you'll see that I love that sound. They come with something called a courtesy edge, and the painted version, this one is really popular in Panama, is a great example. If I do this, I can make my camera woman cringe, but you'll see that there's just a courtesy edge there. It's not sharpened all the way. And if you look at that, it's just like a first bevel. That's because, especially with everybody else except for some of the third world country, or not third world, first world countries, and still nowadays, it's up to the user to put the type of edge that they want on the tool. And this goes for axes as well. Back in the day, the axes would have a big banana grind on it, or a tall, thin grind for greenwood, or a thicker, steeper grind for hardwood. So it's the same deal here. If I was here and I had this thin machete, I would just put a thicker grind on it with the file. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. So it's not just the machete, it's also the edge. That being said, if I was doing a lot of heavy chopping, I would want more of the Dooku style. I'll do some self-promotion, but I don't want to be too self-promoted here. One of my favorite types of styles is this parang. It's got a big, thick edge, but you can still chop with it. It has a lot of oomph behind it. My parang makes some good ones too, not just Condor. A couple of other people have tried to make parangs, but more or less they go for the parang shape, but don't understand what's behind it. That's you know, you have to really understand, hey, it's got to be thick here and then get thinner all the way towards the edge to get all the benefits of it. So that style works very, very well. The cool part about Ontario stuff is that it's already thick to begin with, so it actually does pretty well for chopping, for lots of chopping. And we'll go into techniques here in the next 10 minutes when we walk up into these woods, and we're in the woods of the North Carolina mountains, so it's not necessarily like you know, swamplands or anything along that line. So you have some woody stuff there. So it's also the edge, to answer that question. And you probably wouldn't want the world's thinnest machete out there, but those still work if you know how to flick it and use it right. That's what she said. That was inappropriate. Anyway, so what we're doing with machetes though is that thinness, and a lot of times you don't see that in the U.S. So one of the cool things that I learned when walking around with one of the machete manufacturers with Condor at a hardware store is we looked at this box and there were a bunch of bent machetes from a different country. And I'm like, all right, what? I've seen this before. What's going on? And he goes, oh, well, those are the people in the know, because they'll grab a machete such as this one. This is Imakasa, the parent company of Condor, whom I work for. Spoiler alert. And they say they do a bunch of different tests. First, they see if it tings, if it has that sound. They really like that sound because that helps the blade harmonics or the metal harmonics, which engineer told me. He just basically says it sounds right. You don't get that. You do not get that with like the Ontarios, but they're still pretty good heat treat. Then they take the machetes, and you know what? We're outside, and there's nobody else here that isn't insured, so I can actually do this. And they bend it really, 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 really hard. And then they bring it back up and look to see if it's bent back straight.
Wow.
Now, Dustin and Casey, I've never been able to do that like in public really hard before, so I'm gonna do that again because
No, I
nobody
felt like putting on safety glasses, to be honest.
Pardon?
I felt like putting on safety glasses when you started doing that.
I was
Yeah,
cringing
you gotta
here,
look
even
away.
though there's
We're gonna do it another. We're gonna do it again just for the lols, but I'll do it not facing my car. Forget it. And don't worry, you won't get hurt. There's no edge on this particular machete. All right, so they take it.
Don't hurt yourself, Joe. Oh my
And they bend
gosh.
it
Ah.
as far as they can, and then they bring it back up, and they check the straightness.
Get out of here.
And that
That
means
is
it's
awesome.
good temper. And guys, well, we sit here. Spoiler alert! This is basically what a less expensive condor will do, or the thinner material condor will do. It's a flexion test, and so they'll check there too. And that's another way that you're able to tell if a machete has a good thing. Now, sometimes there will be a warp in some lesser machetes, or just any machete in general. But that doesn't mean it's not bad. You just gotta see where it's at. But 90% of the time that never happens. So that's another test.
That
There's
is
a
awesome.
wheel back in the factory. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but who cares? Back in the factory, we have a bunch of different wheels where we do those tests on to see if we can get them to bend all the way over and stuff to make sure they come back to true as far as quality control testing. And a lot of different machete manufacturers have that. So that's another thing. People say, "Oh, don't baton with the machete." There's some weird stuff that happens when you baton with the machete, but you're batoning, hitting wood with the top of a mallet with something so thin. It's like, seriously, just pull it out and carve something really quick, and you'll get stuff done faster. You won't hurt the machete that way, or the knife if you want like $100 knife or something along that line.
Hey, Joe, before you put that down,
Yep.
I'm wondering, I think I've asked you a very similar question before. So this is from Brian Blanco, and you recommended that blade, and I own one of those now that you recommended it. But he asked, I would love a recommendation for a great budget machete that would be good for semi-desert terrain here in Central Texas.
Semi-desert terrain in Central Texas would mean that he's like dealing with stuff like, I don't know, mesquite,
Maybe
desert ironwood, so stuff that has really, really, really hard, knotty parts. Not just coniferous like these pine trees behind us, but the thing is with that is you have knots with your pines, and the thing is that I can do micro serrations on the edge. No, I don't have that example anymore. I had a bigger version of this where we were chopping cedar and stuff. So you want something for the desert, for example, you'd want something thicker, or you'd want your edge thicker. For instance, Matt Graham hangs out in the desert all the time, and he really loves this as a machete, which is a Condor big leaf. But he says when he's dealing with his stuff, he might put a thicker edge on it because sometimes he gets a little bit of chipping with some of his edges. So putting just like a Scandinavian knife that's not straight Scandi, if guys are in the know or know what I'm talking about there, to give a little more meat on the edge. Another good example, let's not try and be so self-promoting, Joe. A good example that I did not design would be the Tops Jacare. This is a prototype. I've used it a lot. But the Tops Jacare, where did I have the original? Somewhere in here. But this is a prototype. That's a pretty good one to test too. The problem is the thinner material that you get, the more of an edge you'd have to put on there. So like if I have a thin machete with a really thin edge, I'm probably going to be cutting grass. If I'm cutting something like out in the desert, I'd want to thicken that edge quite a bit. So you have to kind of balance it. But the harangues and the Dooku's and the stuff along that line, like a Golok, where they're real thick and then have that distal taper, they work really, really, really well for that. Any Golok, not just Condor's Golok. Not to be self-promoting. Let's look over here. Microring.com. These guys, Bidor, they make a fantastic frame with a distal taper made out of spring steel. So that's a really, really good choice. You can get those off of Machete Specialist. Machete Specialist. Tell them I sent you.
Hey, Joe,
So that
you
helps.
mentioned trying to avoid self-promotion, but I think that comes with the territory of being somewhat of a knife expert, that you probably have a lot of well thought out design behind your stuff. So you're the one here on the show. Feel free to self-promote.
Okay, everybody, send them dollars. No, expert means you're done learning. I hate that term. So you can learn anything from any of these knives, and you know that's a big deal. Is knowledge plays a part in all this stuff. Segue over here. So doing research, if you want to know more or increase your bushcraft capabilities, we all do. There's a lot of books out there. Dustin and I will probably have a class later on about books, but these are some more expensive books that are out there, just depending on if you go on eBay or whatnot. Collins.
Can we zoom in on these as you're discussing them?
Pardon?
Can we zoom in on these as you're discussing them so we can actually see the cover of what we're looking at? Thank you.
So, Collins, machetes. He's yelling at you, Amanda. Come on, step it up, dude. No, just kidding. All right, so Collins, machetes, and bowies. Both of these people, the guy who helped him, Rila, and him have passed away, but this is an excellent machete resource book, and this is my go-to version for this. Collins was one of the originators of the factory-made machetes, so this is a fantastic resource on stuff. Look at all these tough dudes. So that's one. The Knife and Homespun America talks about some of the settlers' versions of big blades that they use, including the corn knife and some of the other large knives that they're using. This is more of just a collector's resource. This is kind of neat. Machetes.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, you were talking about that. You know who Native is? Joshua Native Kirk?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Native, I have two comments from him. I'll highlight both of them. But the first thing, he's about to head out, says, I have to head up to the mountain. Thank you guys for taking the time to do the video. Joe is good people. If you don't know, Native is actually going to be on the new season of Mountain Men. That's pretty cool. And so that's Native. But he asked a question earlier. He said he doesn't have much time. Or he didn't ask a question. He just made this comment. Don't have much time for it here in Wyoming, or much use for it here in Wyoming. But I've used a sugarcane / corn knife / machete for many years. And I actually had not heard about a corn knife. And so he mentioned it, and you just mentioned it again.
Okay, so then Amanda, keep the frame on me, if you don't mind. I don't know if that's the right lingo. But a corn knife would be there's a bunch of variations on the sugarcane knife and the corn knife. This is one of the original village blacksmith corn knives. An example very close to this is in that book from back in the day. You can see there's really nothing to it too much. So this is what they would call a corn knife back in the early 1800s. You see it has a blunt tip, and it's just used for cutting corn. There's a lot of variations on machetes for cutting corn. But
and so you're talking like
Yep.
end of the season, cutting down the remaining standing corn stalks.
Yeah. So there's a way. This is very like I don't know how many people know this, but low key. There's a word for it. I can't remember it in Spanish, where you tick the side of the corn and make the corn stalk lay upside down so that the water runs off of the corn stalk and they're still able to work. And that's in Tropical Frontier, the book by, gosh, I can't remember his name. And normally I can, but doblado, I think is the word. Or they do something like that where they cut it and it ticks over, and they're able to do that. Plus, they're doing all the actual collecting of the corn that way. This is a Condor version of a corn knife, a type of corn knife, a type of sugarcane knife. there is a normal version here somewhere. I think I have a Trementina here somewhere. It's here. Trust me, it's somewhere in this stuff. But the corn knives are very, very common, especially if you go to Miami or anywhere along the border of Mexico, because they're these large knives where they can cut it, they can take the end off. This one's been sharpened. Normally, they're not sharpened, and they can throw it back over their shoulder, as long as they're careful, because you don't want to, cut your shoulder that way. The corn knife is very, very interesting. Here's another variation of the corn knife, where you see a bunch of these different machetes for one freaking plant. And I don't know what the deal is with sugarcane, but sugarcane has so many different examples of the same blade, it's almost nuts. So this could be called a cane knife. That could be called a cane knife. This is the new hotness in sugarcane. You can see this is bent at like a 80-degree angle or something along that line. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
So sugarcane, there's like 20 different knife design or machete designs for sugarcane too. So you see the variations there. And with this one, you can see the hook back here is not sharpened. It's just to catch the plant. And I'm watching Amanda. When you go through, so you can hawk it back. And they have competitions for how to do this.
And you said that
competitions. So you can do this like a head.
Is that because it didn't pass the flexion test, or is it intended to be bent like that?
It's intended to be like that. Hey, great question, by the way. Segue into the Orca. They step on some of my other blades. What the heck do you think this is for?
Bread
steaks.
Steaks?
Chopping up whales. Say it's Orca.
This is a tourist version of Machete del Suelo, which is kind of popular in Costa Rica. The actual version. Ooh, did you hear that? Hold on. Gotta do that again. Looks like that. So not only does it look like an orca breaching, but it's bent at the end.
Whoa.
So that people, this one won't cut so well, that people can take this, and this is how a lot of different people mow their grass in Costa Rica. This is very popular in Costa Rica. So the tourist version of that, this big orca looking thing right here, has been flattened so that it can be etched right on the end for tourists to see. Yeah. So if you see my normal machete that I have hanging up there, the etching on the machetes is very important for selling for tourism.
Nice.
Anyway, what time are we at?
1:35.
All right. So that's an introduction. How many viewers do we have?
About the same, but you know where we kind of got you sidetracked, Joe, is on the books. We were going through some book recommendations, and we popped off that.
Well, you guys will have to contact Albert von Zonnefeld for this, but this is traditional weapons of the Indonesian archipelago. It's going to be harder to get this, guys. But if you really want one, I can tell you where to get it. But there's tons of different types of golocks and spears in here, and you can see this is where a lot of the different names for some of the machetes. Oh, I called a machete the Dooku machete. I'm basically calling it the machete. Where that stuff comes from for the names and whatnot. Check out that little guy. Whew. That's cool. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is another one. These are just the basics of really getting into machetes, and there is a whole world. There is a whole world out there of these Indonesian traditional weapons collectors that collect them for museums and all this stuff, and pay top dollar for a lot of these different machetes that most people didn't know even existed. I'm like at a whole new level of knowing about this like black market of classic machete or Indonesian style museum pieces and stuff. So you'll be seeing some of those in Condor this year for 2021. Yeah, so that's where you want to start with the research. Machete specialist, Baryonyx Knife Company, Condor Tool Knife. Find me on Facebook for questions. How about we talk about some machete sharpening skills?
Sounds great.
Yeah,
Okay.
and one more time, Joe, I'm
Amanda.
gonna write this in the comments section. Can you tell me those 3 brands that you're kind of recommending to start
For
with?
the desert guy,
Oh no, you just mentioned Condor and a few other names.
Condor Tool Knife, Baryonyx Knife Company, myparang.com, Tops Knives. Tops Knives even has they have a really good machete that I helped design that comes on our Bushcraft Global trips every year. See, this one's special. It's got Bushcraft Global. Look at that. Woo-wee! We're big time now. They come on that trip too, but they have their own parang with Smoky Mountain Knife Works. There are a few pretty reputable stuff. Be careful of the big names this is me talking crap, by the way. Be careful of the big names who have machetes because they make machete shaped stuff, but they either do it out of the wrong steel, do not have the temper right, or don't do anything. I'm going to pick up an Ontario, but that doesn't mean that Ontario does a bad job. And where do I have that? There it is. Machetes have to be tempered right. So what would you say a machete has to be tempered at? Throw it out there while I go grab the sample.
As in the actual temperature?
The Rockwell.
Oh. 50 plus.
52.
Who said that?
Oh, Casey and Nick.
Yes, 52. If you go
Oh,
above
52 exactly?
well, ish. 52 to 55. It's lower. It's lower than a knife. You want it to be able to chunk out a little bit. I've got a good example here because I went crazy with this one day. You want it to chunk out a little bit where you can bend the edge back. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
If it's Rockwell too high, then you have this, and this is not a tracker model. This is a fault of the machete manufacturer.
And you're saying this is
Brown
across
machete.
the board, Joe? You're saying that all machetes, or does it depend on the machete style for the?
It depends. I mean, I never would want an axe or a tool where I'm doing heavy chopping where it might be coming towards the ground at 60. Even the Grants for Brucks I like a lot, but I have to make sure everything's perfect when I'm chopping because I don't want it to miss and go to the ground. Whereas like with a Condor axe or even like a Council tool, I'll just be like, and throw it in the ground and be okay with it. It's not going to break. So if
So it
they're
becomes too
made,
brittle at that point, Joe?
yeah, depending on the steel. If you have like a this is a Coyote Custom for competition, made out of like one of the powder steels. I believe it's CPM S30V, one of the older powder steels. Then you can push it, but even then, I don't want to push like a $300 machete that bad when I can go grab my $3 one and chop me in the dirt. So you have to balance that too. If you have a machete that has that flake, that weird change in it where you chop near a piece of wood or something, you can take a battery or something with a little give and hit it on the other side until it kind of makes it flow right and go back and push it down in there. We can try and do it later when we go in the woods.
Cool.
All right, we're going to cover sharpening real quick while I still have somebody who's bipedal here
Awesome.
before we have to go to the tripod. All right, so machetes can be sharp. Here, let's go ahead and get the whole table here. And yes, we'll get to champagne sabering in a little bit. So machetes love files. Machetes are Rockwell to be used all the time and not spend 2 hours sharpening it on a nice diamond stone or on a belt sander, which you still can do. But machetes for the most part, are made for a working tool. They're made the real machetes made for poor people. It's a working class job. They're picking up, going white collar. Homeboy in Central America can't afford a $150,000 John Deere, or they have mountains there where the John Deere can't get up. So they're using these machetes not this machete. They're using machetes all day long, to do all their agriculture, because that's the way it's always been. And it's the way it's the most efficient in some of these, especially third world countries where you see this stuff. And so they want stuff where they can just work and get it working again and then go about their business, kind of like a Jeep or something where you can fix it with a hammer. So what we have right now is a file. This particular one is a farm file. This one's Mercer, but this is just one that I like. This is just my preference. You can use any file. Use a new file, because most times if you're using your grandfather's file, people have gone back and forth and put taken all of those scales and put them down. Files are meant to push, not go back and forth. When you do that, it's like petting a snake backwards. You're lifting all those teeth off and then pushing them down. So for the beginner or somebody who really wants to know how to do it, how are we doing with the camera shot, everybody? Can you see what's about to happen down here?
Right now we're kind of at a weird angle. It's like it's rotated, but it's not really. There we go.
Yeah, it's fake rotated. All right, so focus down here. Can you see that? What we have here is this has a C-clamp on a table. There are so many different ways to sharpen a machete, but for the beginner, this is the safest, because you can put torque on your file and keeping your hand away. You can wear a leather glove if you want. You move spine to edge, not back this way, because that's the opposite of good. And you can put lots of pushing force on here. And I want you guys to focus right here. See if it gets shiny when I push. Is it getting shinier? It is where I'm at. Let me see that thing. All right, so focus more or less right here. Can you guys see that bling? Anyway, long story short, files are meant to have pressure on them. I'm not going back and forth. I even have to tell some of the indigenous that, and their files last a lot longer. That's just how files are meant to work. When you go back, you take the teeth that are up this way and you push them down. So this way, you're working spine to edge. It's safe. You can put a lot of pressure on it. You can take it, flip it over, and put a lot of pressure on it. This file is double cut. You can flip over to the single cut edge. That's why I like the farmer files, and then get a much nicer edge on it. And you can take it up to shaving. Now, this is here at home when you learn how your machete works. Any questions, real quick?
No.
Okay. Now, what happens when we go out in the bush? Time for a walk. We find something here that we can put torque on. This is a root of a pine tree, for instance. Right now, you can even use a door jamb or something like that. And you don't just push this way. You work at an angle to get this draw cut. Get a lot more torque.
Hey, Joe, something happened to your mic. I don't know if it was just covered up or if it got powered off there.
Still there, guys? Double check.
You're real quiet.
How about now?
Still quiet.
Joe, it's like you're underwater again. This happened that one time we did the B class. But it's okay.
Gosh.
Sometimes you have to.
I'll have you guys look at this sexy-ass machete while I'm trying to figure that out. Is it working now?
Not yet. I don't know if were you wearing a remote mic or was that all through the phone audio?
No, nothing that fancy.
Wow.
All right, hey guys, hold on 1 second. Has everybody got it?
Yeah, we'll hold on for you.
I think the trick is to have him jump in and out of the live video.
You cutting your hair, Dustin?
My beard.
How about now, guys? Double check.
No.
Yep. Hold on.
How about now?
No. Do you have the link accessible? You want to see if you can drop out and pop back in real quick?
We will recap here while Joe is doing that. Hey, my internet works, sort of.
There, we'll let him look at the.
We interrupt this program. So, does anyone have any other questions you guys want to throw out here? We've got about 15 minutes or less, and we can start kind of picking Joe's brain on any kind of other topic as it starts winding down a little bit. Sounds like he's going to be chopping some stuff, maybe showing some technique here in just a moment.
Check, 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 check.
You're good.
It sounds a little better.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
Sounds better for now.
Yep, that's it right there.
Beast Boys in the house. Okay. All right. So are we okay with the camera and all that stuff?
Yep. Good to roll.
Perfect.
All right. So this would be one way to do it safely. You can anchor it by your foot and make it even safer, because that way if it jumps, it doesn't like sit there and like stab you. It moves over to the side. You can also use door jams. What happens when you need to go to the other side? You can do one of two things. You can go left hand and try and do it left-handed, or you can place it on something, flip it over like so, and I'm pretending that this is a log now and it's up high, and do it that way.
You lost your spoons.
So we good?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so that's one way. They say, and focus up on me, guys, you want to be careful if you do this. If you do this, I would recommend putting like a glove on, or even a piece of leather. They some of the people I've talked to said the last step that they do is take the edge off just like that. That's one way to do it. It's kind of scary to do that. I'm used to doing it, so I'm fine that way. Alberto, one of my Yukuna tribesmen, just puts it on his freaking thigh and just goes to town with it. My femoral artery is there, and so I'm scared. But flips it over, does the same thing. I've seen the Matisse sit there, and they're doing this barefoot. I'm pretty cool barefoot, but not nearly as cool as they are. And they'll flick it that way, or they'll pinch it this way and get the shave going. Now, one other interesting part I want to talk to you guys about how the indigenous use this stuff is, let's go over here.
And Joe, on the topic of sharpening while you're walking over, you're always pushing towards the edge of the blade, right?
Right. For beginners, I'll go towards it, but it takes two people to cut themselves, experts and beginners. So, and I learned that from a guy who works at Power Saw. So you want to balance that. Let's go around this way. This particular piece came from the 2009 jungle survival trip with Essie Knives. This Tramontina is very, very usable in Peru. And when you see how I'm grabbing this thing and not giving a crap in the world, it's because, okay, we're done. It's because in a lot of different places, can everybody see me right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In a lot of different South American countries, they use a machete like we would a knife. It's arguable, but some people say it's easier to use a big knife for small knife tasks and a small knife for big knife tasks. That's true. But also can be wrong. It's just what you have at the time. They grab it like this, and they're using it to do all their sharpening and stuff like that, because they've taken the edge only up here, only on the usable end. So that's how a lot of the Matisse tribe that I work with, the Yukuna, the Huitoto, people, just normal people all the way up in different areas of different countries, have just this sharpened edge right here. Now, from a marketing standpoint, that's kind of hard to do, because if I got one of these machetes and I said, "Oh, the edge stopped right here," I'd be like Joe Blow on the internet and say they don't know how to sharpen a machete. Right. But that's what the final edge is for. So you'll see like a lot of hard use machetes, unless they're doing a lot of hard woodworking. Not all the time, but many times they don't even take the edge back here. They just focus on it up here so that they can do all of that work. And a more organized Joe would have some examples, which I do have tons of pictures of, on how people do that. So that's one thing. Okay, we're gonna do sabering of a with the machete, and then we're gonna go out to the bush. Does that sound good, guys?
Sounds great.
All right. Because my camera woman only has till like 3 o'clock-ish, so that's when I become stagnant and answer questions and stop moving around so much. So, Sabering, Champagne, which I'm not French. I even got like a champagne cooler here. Look at that. So Sabering was a French tradition, and it started off when officers were going to war. They would saber a champagne bottle open with their cavalry saber. You can do that too with anything. Actually, I held the Guinness Book of World Records because, not me, the guy who did it, with one of my knife designs from 2013 and 2015 with the most champagne bottles that have been sabered in 1 moment or 1 minute. But then some dude beat it in 2015, so sad face. But the Golok, the Condor Golok there was the one who did it, so I felt pretty cocky about that. Anyway, so you got your champagne. Ooh, so fancy. If you look at your champagne bottle, you'll notice that there is a molding line on the side. Can you see this, internet viewers?
Yeah, turn it slightly through, twist it a little bit so the sun is actually hitting it.
Yeah, lift up there. Anyway,
right.
you guys will figure it out when you get your own champagne because you want to try this at home. Back up a little bit. I have to teach the camera woman some skills. All right, no, I'm just kidding, Amanda. So, if you look at any bottle, most bottles have this molding line on there, and that's what you're looking for. There are two things that you have to think about when you're sabering a champagne bottle: the lip on the top and its junction with that molding line. So you have to hit it off right there. Which machete would you guys like me to try this with?
I guess the Golok, the world record one.
Okay, sounds good. Which go? I have 14 now. I don't think I have 14 out here. I got
Which one was the one that the guy did the world record with, Joe?
Well, he has that one.
Oh, well, I mean the same style.
Yeah, we even sent him like a bling bling gold platinum version of it.
Well, what's your favorite to do it with?
At the village?
Whatever I have at the time, honestly. I can do it with anyway. Stupid human tricks. Even the camera woman has done this before. Okay, so we want to do this, and we also, the thing that you need to notice when you guys do this, don't do this with your what's an expensive champagne, Cabassier or something, you know, because it will spill some of it. All right, so how does the shot look right now? Can you see me? Can you see everything going on here?
Great.
Do you want to do it over top of your machetes?
Do it towards the woods.
No,
Make it right.
I do this like all the. I don't know. This is like we'll do it over here where it's like state stuff. Okay, so when you guys are doing this, do know that if you've moved around a lot, or just depending on the age of the champagne, it can blow up half the glass if you do it really hard or really wrong. So that could happen. But also, some of it will spurt out. So I like to have a bucket or like some person's mouth, you know, just pour it into underneath. Not really. Don't do that because glass. Honestly, glass can be sharding here. I'm not taking the blade. When you see sabering, actual sabering champagne stuff, when they talk about this, there's a blunt edge there. Back up a little bit. Can you see me and everything in the shot? You want that 90 degree to take off that lip and go forward. So it's just like a friction fire. The more people watching, the less it'll work.
We have 8,000 people watching, Joe.
Accuracy or force? What's more important here?
The junction with the lip.
The accuracy of where you're hitting.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. I'm not just going like that. I let it ride along the edge of the slide there, or the edge of the neck right there. Does that make sense, guys? But I'm not just going me like that, even though I have in the past. I take it back here, let it go like that. All right, so we're gonna try this once again. Might not work 100% because nothing's ever consistent when you work with glass. I promise you. But yeah, that one was one of the bottles.
Is there blood?
No, no,
no
no.
blood.
There won't be blood. It's just a spattering all over the camera.
There
All
will
right,
be
so what
blood.
happened
Oh,
there, like I said before, nothing's consistent with the glass. Will you get cut with this? 9 times out of 10, probably not, because look at the way this broke. My hands cushioned that impact, just in case that happened. But that has happened before. If you watch even like the Guinness Book of World Record guys who've done this 68 times in a minute, like a fourth of them explode. That's why you never want to do this with like $15 champagne. Now, for an experiment, we're going to make her drink this with all the glass in it. No, I'm just kidding. Hold on 1 second. I picked up. Pardon?
They were laughing.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. I have one more here that I bought as an experiment. So we're going to see what happens. Just hang out here.
I think we should do this as a class at Georgia Bushcraft. What do you think? Seems legit.
Now it's also,
We-
this is something I forgot to tell you guys about. It's also the quality of the glass. And one of the reasons why you're able to do it with champagne, and look at this quality, right? Champagne things is that it has thicker glass. If it's thinner glass, sometimes you'll have that problem. So this is yellowtail, the finest of the fine. And so now we're looking for the junction again. I've never done this with a plastic cork on top. Normally, what happens, and I know you guys are giggling your head off, is that the pressure shears just off the neck there. And if you do it right, it does it so hard that it's just a 45-degree angle there. But like I said before, with glass, it's never consistent. Anyway.
Joe, does the temperature of the bottle matter?
If you get like a really, well, I don't know why you'd have frozen stuff, but it's just like if you think about your windshield, the colder it gets, the more shatterable it gets. Like even when you're scraping the thing, that could have an effect. I've never thought about how much of an effect that had. This is what happens normally, is that it pops off just like that. That's what you're going for. But sometimes there's variances in the oh, that's cool. There's a little star there. There's variations in the glass that could happen. I've done it while it's snowing. I've done it in very hot weather, so I don't know. And also, probably don't let Joe do it because I move around a lot, and that makes it fizzy. So you want to like let it sit for a while, but forget we're gonna do it live. Amanda's gonna get sprayed again. All right, so. This is an experiment because this is cheap champagne, which you want to practice with, and a plastic top. So I don't know how this will go. Not enough lip.
Now it's getting good and shook up.
Yeah, it's perfect. So you see what happens? It's not dragging along that lip. Whereas on the other one, that's where 90% of the shearing comes in, because there's like 1/8 of an inch there where it's catching. So that's why this guy won't work. But we're going to try anyway. We're going to do this the dangerous way. Sorry, Amanda. Dang. All right, yeah. We're not going to even waste that. That's not even worth the experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We just have to call it. We're just gonna have to
chop it.
We're going to try and do stupid. You know what? We're going to try and do stupid.
Throw it in the air and chop it.
Is the new one? Yeah, whatever. All right, so here.
Joe.
Back up. It's plastic. There you go.
Oh,
That's how you get the top off of the plastic ones. It's still not a very great way to conserve all your champagne. So if you want to do that correctly, we have a bunch of videos online of that. But the cheaper the glass bottle, the worse it's going to go. So you want to be careful of that too. But as far as like getting cut, only like drunk people that are like cradling it like to them really, really hard and like doing it not deliberately, that's where the problem can happen with that. But we'll do it again later at some point. This is all nappable stuff, so I'm not happy. I mean, I'm not sad about it. Anyway, that's sabering, old school style with a with the top. So interesting thing to do. Stupid human tricks 101.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
All right,
Well,
we're bringing,
Casey, have I made you do this before?
No, that's why I've known you like 100 years. I've never seen this.
Oh my gosh, dude, Tim's done it like 6 times. All right,
I think we need a Georgia class on it.
Hey Joe,
We need to do it.
hey Joe, just to kind of start wrapping us up a little bit too, I want to throw out a question that someone asked earlier for just a general purpose good machete that you'd recommend.
Bushcraft, the Bushcraft Machete by Condor Tool and Knife. If they're in here, they're probably related to Bushcraft, but they're also probably wanting to chop stuff. So not necessarily like a thin knife or something along that line. So that would be it. The Bushcraft, the Condor Bushcraft Machete. You guys see it?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're about to go in the woods here, and I'll show you how to make a grab off.
We're over our hour mark. It's not going to make it to
All
Instagram.
right, we'll make it fast. All right, so users, we're out in the bush. One of the things you guys need to know about machetes is the biggest way to get cut is on top of the knee right there. That's actually one of the worst ways to get cut. Top of the foot on the other side if you have a longer machete. Your hand, when you're holding it up and you're doing that, sometimes it gets really, really, really hot out. You're not paying attention. You have to watch for that other hand. When you swing a machete, look around you. There might be something up high when you get ready to swing that might get caught. So always worry about that. Dogs, for sure. Watch out for your dogs because you're making a lot of movement and you're getting excited and doing all this stuff too. Dogs will come up and hang out with you. If I try and cut this, whoop, at a straight angle, I'm not really going to get anywhere. So I want to cut at a 45-degree angle. So I could cut this way, or I could cut that way. And you see that cut goes through. When you're even cutting on the ground, and it's not totally awesome to cut straight on the ground, you can use something like a log or something along that line too. You can cut like this and get these small chunks, but that same rule, and it doesn't really make sense, but it's how the grain works, applies. So cutting it at a 45-degree angle can make your job a lot easier. Also, keeping your hands out of the way is super important. You're connected to them. You've had them all your life. You want to keep them. So you can also use, especially for like clearing some of this stuff up here, something called a grabat. So right now, I'm looking at this tree. I see the V right here and here, and I'm going to cut it at a 45-degree angle right there. I'm going to look at which direction these plants are growing. You guys see how they're growing out this way? I'm going to keep this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and shuck all the other pieces. Right there. If I go back this way, opposite of what they're doing, it's not going to work so well. And that's the same way with axes too. To get more of a fine cut, I can put it on something. I don't like to leave my fingers out because, you know, I'm going to keep these all there. I'll keep them in tight and have a good backstop. I can even move my hand away or use something like a helper stick, you know, just to keep my hands out of the way. This is not a stick. That's a piece of bark. I just cut a stick down. Give me another stick. You can use something like a helper stick if you're nervous about working near your hands. You can use anything to keep that away. So keep that in mind. You don't have to sit there and get comfortable working near your hands. Some special forces and survival schools teach about keeping your hands, one of the most important things, your feet and your hands good, because that's your only way to get out. So what we have here is a tiny grabat. And what a grabat is, it's just a hook. There's a bunch of gaucho. There's a bunch of other names for it. But this keeps your hands out of the way, right? You like our hands. I just found the perfect example. Follow me. What we have here is a cat briar. And cat briars suck when you hold them with your hands. So you can hold it this way, get it to bend a certain way, and cut it straight through if you have to. Like with raspberry bushes and other stuff. This is the way. If you have to, you can get that perfect. You see how this is bending, guys? Right here?
Yeah.
Just cutting it straight through there is a good way to catch it and then throw it poof, over your shoulder. Now with actual like grass cutting, and I'm getting briared up here, with actual grass cutting, such as we talked about earlier for clearing your campsite, Amanda, we're going to go right over here with it. Sawgrass is. You can try and cut like this. Can everybody see me? Using the pinch method, this is the best way to use a machete between the thumb and the forefinger, not just trying to chop like this, but this fast movement is a great way to cut. The grabat helps with higher weeds. Such as this, to bend them over. And you take them and you throw them back behind you. And this is just a gringo doing this. There are people that do this all the time, but it keeps their fingers out of the way and is able to take that and throw them behind them. Another way to do that even more efficiently is to take your machete, say it's like this, and hold it at an angle so you get that flicky motion. And that way, you're able to cut stuff a little bit easier. And this works with briars too. I really like this. This is a very short grabat. You probably want one longer. To get through weeds and be a little bit safer, because when you're working here, you work close to this area and you have an arc out here. You're farther away. That arc goes to the side. You're more safe. You keep fingers, etc., etc. So there, and there. Best way to do that, keep your foot back. A little bit easier that way. Keep your hand away from the cutty part. Very important. It sounds very basic, but like, I don't know, for me, I have this like, oh, I gotta go out in the woods with my crocodile Dundee knife and start chopping, so you want to be careful. Also, lanyards. I'm the school of thought for no lanyard on my machetes. If I lose it, I want it to go launching. Hopefully, I'm very careful of who's around me. But when it swings, it's going right into an area I care a lot about. So if it's on a lanyard, you've got this dangling right here. On shorter knives, I don't think that's a problem, like 9 inches or so. It's just my personal opinion. But you can have lanyards on there, just wrapping them around your wrist. This is actually a pretty common, believe it or not, cut. Even when swinging really hard, for some reason it gets cut. People get cut on the back of their elbows a lot. So with that being said, I'm going to go into selfie mode while we're talking about this. Say thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda.
So
Bye. Thank you.
So that's 8 minutes, like thrown into or an hour thrown into 8 minutes of what to do with a big knife.
Well, hey, we covered a bunch today. You looked at a bunch of different kinds of machetes, different designs, different thicknesses, how to test them for their hardness and flexion. We looked at some safe techniques. What else did we do? We looked a grabat. We learned how to make
exploded some freaking champagne bottles.
Exploded some champagne bottles. I mean, this
I've
is
actually only exploded. I've probably done this like probably 100 times. I've only exploded like 2 that I can
That was the
think
biggest
of.
explosion ever, right?
Sure. But
right.
So we can, you know what? We can revisit this and have like a very structured skill thing where we're learning how to make fuzz sticks with one arm with a machete and how to hunt fish or how to fish with the machete.
Yeah, look, so this is intro to machetes. This is kind of like machete 101.
was
And
exploding. There was glass.
this will hopefully get people interested more in the machetes themselves, in that mentality, and hopefully they'll reach out to you as well if they have questions. Where can people find you on social media? Where do you want them to go to follow you, stay in touch with you, etc.?
So you can go to Bushcraft Global on Instagram, on Facebook. The website is being worked on. It's pretty bad because I'm just out there in the bush playing too much. But Bushcraft Global on Instagram, on Facebook, bushcraftglobal.com, condortk.com. Of course, Condor Tool and Knife on Instagram and on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. If you just like Google Joe Flowers knife, you'll find stuff everywhere. I don't have my own Joe Flowers website yet because out there cutting stuff. So that's the basics. Also topsknives.com. I come down to Georgia Bushcraft a lot to teach when I can, when we don't have the corona. So
Hopefully we'll be here this fall. And we'll
Yeah.
all have the Coronas.
what are the dates for that, by the way, Casey?
November 6th through the 8th right now.
Ooh.
I heard a loud crash.
What's the next big trip that you're doing?
Gosh, I've had like six trips canceled, and we're not doing Bushcraft Global this year because Gordon's stuck out in the middle of in Chile right now. But we're right now probably a snake hunt down in South Carolina, looking for different indigenous snakes of the area Memorial Day weekend.
Nice.
So that should be pretty fun. It's my dad's private website, private hunting grounds. So it's pretty special to me, at least.
What's the deal with that?
So repeat that. Sorry.
Is that open to the public or class?
No. It's
Here.
just with
I heard
me and 5 other professional, like, guys who get paid for it, herpetologists. So not necessarily open to everybody. However, good segue, human. I will be working, and this is all in the foundational stages, with Campcraft Outdoors, and that is Jason Hunt, right?
Yep.
On a trip for 2021 where we take people down to the Florida Keys to do deserted island or an island survival trip. And 2 days before that, I will be guiding a snake hunt around the Everglades, where it's kind of like my playground that I used to go to every year, where we try and catch different types of snakes, photograph them, let them go, etc. Unless they're burning.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you got any other questions for Joe, follow up on his social media. Reach out to him there. Give him a follow, give him a like, and check out his website, some of his knife designs, and hopefully this inspired you guys to get into the world of machetes.
Hey, if you're in North Carolina, like in the northwest region, and you got a ton of oil, come on by. I've got a job for you because this is going to take forever. I thought, hey, yeah, let me put out all my machetes. I'll have a chance to organize. And like, God, I'm going to take so long doing this. It's going to take twice as long to re-sheath them.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time. I think it took you over 45 minutes just to lay out all the machetes. And a lot of people enjoy being able to see that. And it showcases your breadth of knowledge and experience with them too. So
it's hard to, not to say knowledge and all that, but it's hard to put it all in like a 1 hour thing. Because like we only got into one type of sharpening, not even the hunting. All the different, like really cool, like rare stuff that I have, I could talk hours for it. So there could be an after party on my live Instagram thing if you guys.
That's part of this series is intended to get people in touch with the subject matter experts, so that if they are interested in the historical and the rare and whatever, that now they know the guy to go to. So hopefully you'll get some follow up.
Well, it doesn't have to be historical or rare too. I mean, my wife uses one of the orange ones out in the garden all day long, and then all the neighbors give her looks, and she's like, "I don't know how you guys live without them." So.
All right, we appreciate you coming on here. We'll see everybody in the next video, which will be next Tuesday. We've got Bushcraft Beer Hour going on still on Fridays. And this is our first time here on this platform that we're using. It seems to work out pretty well. Let us know what you think of that. And we'll keep these coming so we can keep bringing knowledge out to everybody, share it around with the community.
Yeah, and guys,
Heck yeah.
you know, we're not internet gurus or anything like that. So let us know what you guys think of these platforms. You know, we're all here, all in the same boat, trying to figure out how to do this stuff. I'm sitting there like my parents are on AOL, like trying to figure out Zoom. So, you know, we're all in the same boat. Let us know if you liked it. Let us know if you didn't. And go cut stuff.
All right. Well, thanks again, Joe. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See you next week.
Bye.